Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's now 3 o'clock.
Yeah!
The Trailblazers going to play their first home game of the preseason tonight at Moda Center. The Sacramento Kings are in town. Tip at 7, RipCityDrive. Live from Moda 3 to 5. Chris Burkhart's going to have Blazers game day at 5 o'clock. I'll be on the network pregame at 6. Reminder, every single Trailblazer game streams live on our free iHeartRadio app. All eyes are going to be on Seattle tonight. 5:08 first pitch on Fox. It's Game 5 of the ALDS with the Tigers and Mariners. Kirby and Skubal, the pitching matchup. Seattle has won the previous 3 against Skubal, including Game 2 of the series. The winner's going to meet Toronto in the ALCS. The Ravens have ruled out Lamar Jackson for Sunday's game against the Rams. He's dealing with a hamstring. Sam Levitt, now doubtful for ASU's game tomorrow at Utah as he deals with an undisclosed injury. And John Mateer has been upgraded to probable. Oklahoma meets Texas tomorrow at the Cotton Bowl. Ducks are favored by 7. They host Indiana. 12:30 kick on CBS. Aaron Finchurch joins me at 4:20 to talk Ducks on the Rip City Drive. You know, I've got a simple philosophy. If Michael Shacker is going to bless me with Phil Collins to open up the show, who am I to talk over that voice? I mean, after all, he's only got a job to do. I might as well let him do it. All right, really looking forward to the show today for the very first time. And I'll be here often over the next 6 months. I am live, Section 330 here at the Pines at Moda Center as we get ready for the Trailblazers' first preseason home game. The Sacramento Kings are going to be in town tonight. Tip-off's coming up at 7. Chris Burkhart is going to stop by with Blazers game day at 5 o'clock, and I'll have the network pregame starting at 6. And don't forget, every single Trailblazers game streams live via our free iHeartRadio app. It's the best way to do it if you're out bumping around. So I appreciate your time, and, of course, we got a monster sports weekend, which kicks off tonight up in Seattle at 5:08 with the Mariners and Tigers, and you got a great pitching matchup. It's Kirby and Skubal on the bump, and it's going to be one of those classic games where it's like, hey, winner take all, winner moves on to meet Toronto in the ALCS, and the big question is, can you get through the first 6 or 7 innings and outlast Skubal without any big-time errors? And what's amazing about this game, as great as Skubal is, and he's probably the best pitcher in the game today, he and Skeens, if the Mariners win, they will have won their last 4 games against Skubal, which is unbelievable. I mean, the guy is so good, but the Mariners have been good at home against lefty pitching. Skubal's a badass, there's no question about it, but this is what it's all about right here. And we saw it last night with the Dodgers and Phillies. You get in these high-pressure situations in the baseball playoffs where everything's on the line and the sphincters tighten up. You don't know what certain guys are going to do when you talk about pressure. And that's really what it's all about. And we saw it last night. The Dodgers and Phillies in extras, bottom of the 11th at Dodger Stadium. LA had packed the bases. Bases loaded, 2 outs, and they've got Andy Pages at the plate. It's unbelievable. Pressure packed, and you don't know what guys are going to do.
The 0-1. Swing and a broken bat. Comebacker. Kirkering knocks it down. Picks it up. Throws wildly home to the backstop. And the season is over. The Dodgers rushing out past Orion Kirkering, who stands with his hands on his knees, bent over.
Just a devastating moment for Orion Kirkering, the Phillies relief pitcher who had a very good finish to the year. He had pitched really well for them. But in that moment, I'm sure they discussed it during the mound meeting. of what they were going to do, what the process was going to be, where he needed to go with the ball, and the play was at first base. Even the catcher was pointing to first, and Kerkering lost his dome for a moment and threw a ball home that was wide right. And then what was really crazy is that Kim came across the plate. He missed home plate. But in the melee after the bad throw by Kerkering, he just casually walked back over and tapped the home plate, and the Dodgers get the win. What a sensational game with a ridiculous finish. And the Dodgers were fortunate to survive. They stranded a bunch of guys on base. They were not good in the series with runners in scoring position. But for both the lineups, with so many high-priced, big-time hitters, nobody did jack last night. The Dodgers were able to tie the game late when they had the bases loaded again, and somehow, some way, Mookie Betts was able to draw a walk. That's how they tied the game, and then they won it with a fielding error by the pitcher Kerkering. Absolutely bizarre and crazy. And I don't know what's going on with Shohei Ohtani or Shohei Conforto, but when you're paying a guy $1 billion, you might ask that he doesn't look lost at the plate in a high-leverage situation like that. Hey, Shohei, I love you. You've got mad game. You're one of the best players I've ever seen in my entire life. What were you doing last night? And by the way, if Teoscar Hernandez is going to continue to field casually in the postseason, he might want to step it up too. He looked lost late in the game at the plate too. If you're going to mash and hit big home runs, I can get away or live with the fact that you might take it casually in the outfield, but that kind of stuff is brutal. And I don't know what's going on in baseball with the fundamentals, but we've seen a lot of guys not knowing what they're supposed to do on routine fly balls. Or freaking Sheehan yesterday, who gave up a run because he missed a ball that was thrown on the money by Betts at first base when he was covering. It's like, what are you doing? And so I have to wonder tonight with the Tigers and Mariners, is it going to come down to a big hit or is it going to come down to a big mistake? And I just have a feeling that, this game's going to remain tight up until we get late in the game, 8th, 9th inning, and the question is who's going to flinch first and make the mistake. And we've seen it, right? The leadoff walk or the big-time error that ends up costing you. And in this case, it will cost you everything. And for the Seattle Mariners, it's their best chance to get to the World Series since 2001. And we're only talking about 24 years of history here. Oh, it's such a great moment, though. But if you go 4-0 against Scuba, that's some big-time play right there. Absolutely awesome. It's great. Elsewhere, the Ducks, top 10 matchup with Indiana coming to town. No, it's not Bobby Knight and Isaiah Thomas and the rest of that crew. It's going to be the football team with Coach Signetti. And we're not accustomed to seeing Indiana being a football powerhouse. They've got a good squad. They're a physical squad. They want to get after it. The big question is I think the way it was related to me yesterday, this is like a big step up in weight or weight class for Indiana. Are they better prepared to deal with the pressure of a game like this, unlike last year when we saw them get their face kicked in at Ohio State? Will they put up a better fight tomorrow? I expect a physical game. The line has come down just a little bit. It was 7.5 to open up. It's down to 6.5 in some places, so it looks like some of the smart money's coming in on Indiana. But I think for the Ducks, getting the bye week after the win over Penn State, that came at a good time. I would not want to coach a bunch of youngsters in college football because you never know what's going on in their dome. Probably nothing good. But to come off that emotional high after the win over Penn State, to be able to have a week to recoup, get the bumps and bruises worked out, and then emotionally come off that high, probably a very good thing for the Ducks. But there are a number of great football games. Also, a couple of injury notes. It looks like the Oklahoma Sooners are going to have John Mateer back. I don't know if he's like the bionic man or what, but he broke his hand against Auburn, had surgery, was supposed to be out an extended period of time, and now he's listed as probable. That's very good news for the Sooners, who are going to be taking on Texas, who so far this year have been fraudulent. Either fraudulent or the hype surrounding them and Arch Manning to start the year was a complete joke. So we'll see what type of response Texas has. But Oklahoma's got revenge after last year. They've got the better team, and they've got the superior defense. This better be a win for Brent Venables. I'm from Oklahoma. I'm well aware of how they think down there. You don't want to go back-to-back losses to UT when you have the better team on the field this year. And you got the better quarterback in John Mateer if he plays, and it sure looks like he's going to play. I hate Texas. I don't like the burnt orange. I don't like their fans. I don't like Texas, and it reminds me of what my Nana used to say to me when I was younger. Chad, they're from Texas, and nothing good comes from Texas. That's what my Nana told me. And, of course, you grow up in Oklahoma, you learn real quick there is a border skirmish there. I'm not down. So Oklahoma better get the win there, or Brent Venables should be looking to get the heck out of town. You can't be dropping that game when you got the superior team, the better defense, and Arch Manning, who looks like a Pop Warner quarterback right now. And I like Arch. Good family, good young man, but right now he is not a good quarterback. His mechanics don't look good. His feet are not settled in the pocket. He's missing throws high and low. Yeah, you don't want to drop a game to Texas. And usually games like that, just like the Oregon-Indiana game, you know what it's going to come down to. There are going to be 3 to 4, maybe 5 plays that determine the outcome of the game, and that means don't be dum-dums when it comes to special teams. You got to be tight in that area. Don't make the big mistake, and don't lose the turnover battle. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? That's all it takes to win those type of games. So what do you think about the Mariners and Tigers tonight? Are you Mariner fans gripping right now because they have to face Skubal again? Or are you confident the group, being at home, where they played so well all year, are going to come up with enough big hits and clutch plays to get the job done? And then you move on to face Toronto, who looks like a real juggernaut right now in the American League. Now, on the other side, Chicago was able to even things up with the Brewers. They'll play a Game 5 back in Milwaukee tomorrow, and the winner will move on to face the LA Dodgers. So this is a great time of the year. Love the matchups. Also, the other injury note from college, from Westland, Sam Levitt, all of a sudden listed as doubtful, and Kenny Dillingham, their head coach at Arizona State, said it would be a miracle if he plays tomorrow night. That's kind of a problem when you're taking on Utah in their building for a night game. A physical Utes team that's going to be a little bit bitter after getting their ass whooped at home by Texas Tech. That means Jeff Sims, who was at Nebraska in his second year at ASU, will start and get a chance to do it that way. Now, Sims is a capable backup. He's got a lot of experience as a starter. Not the passer that Levitt is, but really good with his legs, and he can run. So he could stress the defense that way. So it'll be fun to watch and see how that plays out. Also, a huge shout-out to my man Duke, the UPS driver. He is very happy right now because his New York Giants whooped up on the Philadelphia Eagles last night. And how about my guy Cam Scatterboo? He had nearly 100 yards last night, 3 touchdowns, and once again providing ridiculous energy and excitement to that Giant group. I knew it watching him at Arizona State the last 2 years. My dad fell in love with him. He's one of my favorite players of all time, and I knew it's like, hey, I don't need to be a scout. I know that Cam Scatterboo, whoever drafts him, is going to be really happy because the guy's going to get on the field, whether it be in third down, short yardage, whatever, special teams, and he'll be a difference maker. And last night he was out there tearing it up with his young quarterback, Jackson Dart. And Jackson's Dart's mom was looking very nice last night. Very nice. It's a good family. All right, we'll keep things rolling. When we come back, we're going to eavesdrop in on a conversation I had with Alex Brink as we continue to prepare you for the upcoming football weekend. I'm live here at Moda Center at the Pines, Section 330. Michael Shacker is with me. Chris Burkhart's got Blazers game day coming up at 5. And Aaron Fincher is going to stop by from the Oregonian at 4:20 to talk some Ducks. You got to love the Mariners tonight, though. What a game.
Yeah!
Yeah. Big-time game. Game 5.
Yeah!
It's going to be a 5:08 first pitch on Fox. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
Yeah!
A massage. A massage. A massage.
Yeah!
Well, I've officially failed as a parent. I went into the bathroom today. I was amazed that my daughter had actually taken the toilet paper roll and actually loaded it up on that little, rod or whatever they call that thing. Normally it just sits there next to the sink. And it's like, dude, are you that lazy that you can't put the roll of toilet paper on where it belongs? So she loaded it up this time, but she did it backwards and had the paper coming from underneath. And I'm just telling you right now, if you believe that loading the toilet paper up on the roll underneath, you are a loser. It is not the way to do it. It always goes from over the top. And so I'm going to have a stern talking with my daughter sometime this weekend. I've failed as a parent. It's like, what's going on here? Why are you doing this? And then these little narrow Ziploc bags that she bought that are completely useless. It's like, why'd you get these? I can only fit like 2 crackers in there. What in the world's going on? All right, Aaron Fincher is coming by at 4:20 to talk some Ducks. I was joined by our college football and NFL insider, Alex Brink, earlier this week, former Coug. And I wanted you to hear some of the conversation because we previewed the entire weekend, including Indiana and Oregon. But he also has a good knowledge of what's going on at UCLA with Jerry Neuheisel and that crew and the big win over Penn State. And that's how the conversation started with the ending of that wild finish where Penn State got their ass beat by the Bruins. And then James Franklin made excuses because they have to travel.
And here we go with 2 seconds left. The pass predictably is over the middle, lateraled back, and Ross can't get away. It's back to Aller. He goes down, and the Bruins are on the field. They'll take a victory lap. The cadaver has jumped off the gurney and is dancing all over town. Backflips are being performed. Confetti is in the air. Amazing. 42-37.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. UCLA had not won a game. They upset Penn State. And after the game, Jerry Neuheisel, who had just jumped in as head coach, talked about it.
First thing I want to say is I love UCLA more than anything. And the kind of kids that you see that played on that field today is exactly why you love a place like this. We had 2 days to practice the new game plan, and all they did was believe. And we came out and played as hard as we could for 60 full minutes. Had to take a safety at the end because we messed it up a little bit. But, how can you not love college football when you have days like this? Special, special, special.
Gosh, it's so awesome. Now, Alex, you told me that you know Jerry really well. What was your reaction to what you saw from the win and then how elated Jerry was after the game?
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to it. I mean, you get the first one, right, where Tim Skipper steps in as kind of the interim, he's the interim head coach, and his brother Kelly Skipper coached at Washington State when I was there. So Tim's been, he's at Fresno. He's been doing a great job. And Jerry, I've known Jerry since he was just a young coach right out of playing. He was a backup at UCLA, got some time as a starter, right, if you remember. Was a Bruin, obviously Rick's son, but the thing that has struck me about knowing Jerry for the last, probably 8-10 years, is he is just an elite football coach. And what I mean is it's not just X's and O's. He was great about X's and O's, but part of being a college football coach is relationships, right? Is you have to build relationships with your players. You have to build them with other coaches. You have to build them with alumni, donors, and, folks like me, right? I'm in this mix of high school football and working with players. Jerry is such a genuine human being in the way he interacts with people that he gets buy-in. And that's what struck me about that win against Penn State is that, it wasn't so much about the X's and O's. It's what you saw after the game. Did you see how genuinely elated those players were, not just for themselves, but for Jerry Neuheisel, right? And so yeah. I think that tells you all you need to know about Jerry is his relationship building is really what was able to carry that team to a win on top of the obvious football X's and O's.
It was great. His father, Rick, was on set at CBS in tears. I found the whole thing to be quite enjoyable. But you and I have talked about this before, and I've talked to you about coaches that you played for, right? If you're genuine and you're just being who you are, and that comes through, the players are going to respond to that. And that's what I felt about Jerry after the win, is that he was just being himself.
1,000,000%, right? I mean, he's been around ball his whole life, so he kind of gets it in general. But, it's who he is, right? He's been a receiver coach there. He helped with tight ends. He's been on the offensive side. He's been a GA. He's really worked from the ground up. And, players really appreciate that, right? When they see a guy that has worked that hard, because when he was a young coach, right, he's in all those kind of meetings and he's getting with the backups and helping them out, and he's kind of doing all the grindy work, you know what I mean? And now he's getting the shot to call plays, and all these players are like, gosh, I remember when Jerry was helping me after practice learn this script, or, calling me in to work on some extra, do some extra film study, right? Like, that's the type of guy he is. And so, again, those athletes, especially in coaching changes, which are always hard, they look to whoever they can anchor to, right, to help them find success. And Jerry Newhouse is very much that guy.
We're talking with Alex Brink here on the Rip City Drive. The other thing that's starting to kind of bother me, Alex, is we got it from Lincoln Riley after the loss on the road to Illinois, and we got it from James Franklin after the loss to UCLA. I understand they're a little bit upset if they lose a tough game like that, but I don't need the excuse-making of the travel and the time change, because they knew what they were signing up for. They wanted to be a part of this conference. They knew the travel was going to be there. I don't need the excuse-making. Just, come out and say, hey, we got to be better. I don't know why coaches have to take that approach when everyone, heck, teams like Oregon and Washington State have been traveling excessive miles for years because of where they're located.
Yeah, miss me with that argument. Everybody that's said it. There's been so many, right? There's, like you mentioned, the Lincoln Rileys of the world, the James Franklins, you
just called the game in North Texas for crying out loud. You were down in North Texas.
Yeah, no. I don't, I got to fly through Chicago to Memphis to get to Ole Miss this weekend. I got to fly to Washington D.C. in 2 weeks to get to Charlottesville, Virginia. You know what I mean? No, it's not. Look, sure, there's challenges. It happens in the NFL, but if you're Penn State and you got a $20+ million roster, you figure it out, right? James Franklin's 1 in 100 in games against top 10 opponents. No, we're not doing that conversation. And so, again, it's and it is, you're right. At a really big picture, all of these programs and all these coaches that are, crying wolf because, it's not playing out the way they thought it was going to. It's what do you think was going to happen, guys? And there's about 30 more of them that aren't going to be in the club here and in the next 5 years, and they need to keep their mouth shut too, right? And just figure it out the way the Washington State's trying to figure it out, the way some of these other programs, the Boise States of the world, are trying to figure it out, right? Instead of complaining about something that they ultimately created.
I agree. We're talking with Alex Brink, former Coug here on the Rip City Drive. A couple of other things I want to talk about. First off, I can't wait until next week. We'll save it until next week, but your trip to Ole Miss, I told you last week that Ole Miss, after watching them, they've been one of the more impressive teams this year, but I can't wait to get your take on Trinidad Chambliss and that offense that's being run by Weiss Jr., the play design and stuff. So I'm going to just make a mental note, because I'm going to hit you with that next week, if you're cool with that. I've
already watched some tape. If you want the breakdown, I'm ready for it. You know what I mean?
Chambliss and the offense.
Size, obviously, but boy, Chambliss can flat spin the football and is an elite athlete. The fact that he was playing D2 football up until now is incredible. He wasn't even the starter at Ole Miss going into this year, right? And he makes that offense go with his legs, his ability in the quick passing game to get it out. He is really special. And I think, offensively, to be honest, I think they're solid offensively, but without him pulling the trigger, I don't think they would be quite as productive. So they kind of fell into one a little bit with him, and was really impressed watching tape yesterday of him.
I can't wait until you go. I also like their running back, Quan Lacey. I just like the way they play, and they seem to bring a physical aspect to it. So I think it's going to be a challenge, a good challenge, a healthy challenge for Washington State. All right, Texas got hammered by Florida. Another struggle for Arch Manning. What are you seeing right now in general with Arch that's leading to some of his struggles? And I'm not out on Arch. I just know that some guys take longer to develop. But what are you seeing with him right now?
Well, there's the obvious on-field challenges that I think are exacerbated by, a lot of the off-field stuff that, frankly, is kind of out of his control. You know what I mean? Again, I've talked about this before. I think the powers that be really did him a disservice by kind of propping him up as a Heisman Trophy candidate and maybe the number 1 overall draft pick and all these things just because of his last name, right? There's plenty of markers along the way to say that Arch Manning's not there yet, not even close to being there yet. Yeah. Not that he's not a good player, but that there's just a long way to go, and, they're playing a tough schedule. And, I think Texas is down a little bit off of last year in general. And so, he's kind of a product of all of that. And I think there's so much scrutiny on him as a person and as a player that it's making it all that much worse. I mean, can you imagine being I know he's getting paid a lot of money, but can you imagine being a 20, 21-year-old kid and trying to manage the expectations that were bestowed upon him with really
so tough.
Kind of no validity? I mean, that's really difficult. I just hope for him as a person that, again, the family and the people around him are helping support him through this. Because, although he's not playing great, I think it's through no fault of his own, and it's just being made worse by all the outside stuff.
Now, Oklahoma and Texas this weekend, the Sooners are going with Michael Hawkins Jr., their young quarterback, in place of John Mateer until he's healthy. But don't you think that Coach Venables is excited to get his defense, which is one of the best, unleashed against a young quarterback in Arch Manning?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is the best football team that Brett Venables has had, right, since he's been there. And, he had his own struggles early on. And so I think he feels like there's blood in the water in all facets. And, just because, Mateer's obviously a great player and he's out. Michael Hawkins Jr. is an Elite 11 quarterback. I came around. He's a really nice player also that fits that scheme well. So I feel like offensively there's not that much of a drop-off. And when you have an elite defense like that, it's going to make things really tough on Texas.
All right, Brink, just one football question for you that I notice, and I hear it all the time, and I want your explanation as a QB. But when a quarterback gets up to a line and you hear, and this happened with Bo Nix in the win over Philadelphia, you hear, kill, kill. What does that mean, and what's going on at the line of scrimmage when you hear that?
Yeah. Okay, so kill is a football term. You can also hear something called can. Can and kill are a football term for we're changing the play to the second play in the huddle, or we're flipping it like flipping sides, right? So what happens is in the huddle oftentimes now in the NFL is they either call two plays or they either call one play that can go both ways, right or left. And so essentially I would get up and I would call, West right slot, Fox 2 run, kill, Fox 2 pass, Y cross, right? So that's a run play first, and then I would kill it to the pass play if I like it. So at the line of scrimmage, the quarterback sees something he likes, and he says, kill, and it turns into the pass play, right, in that sense. So that's kind of what's happening at the line of scrimmage.
How often are two plays called in the huddle? Is that just situational, or does that happen often?
Well, nowadays it's happening much more often, right? I think you heard Joe Brady talking about it after the Bills game. He kind of said we often call two plays in the huddle, and whether it's two full plays in the huddle or, like I said, maybe a run play that can go both ways, right? So I might call outside zone to the right, but I could can it to outside zone to the left based on the way the defense is aligned, right? So, that's really common. Say back when I was with Kyle Shanahan and the Houston Texans, I would say we did it maybe 30% of the time in a game, and I would bet it's north of 60% of the time now because offenses are much more sophisticated, players are more sophisticated, and that's just kind of the way the systems are built.
We're talking to Alex Brink. How about that game last night? A couple of different things. One, the interception by Devin Lloyd where he baited Patrick Mahomes in the red zone to throwing that ball and then returning it was amazing. But I really enjoyed it. I like Trevor Lawrence, so I want him to succeed. What did you make of the way he battled, including that final touchdown run where he trips over his lineman, gets up and runs it into the end zone where if he gets stopped, the clock's continuing to run because they're out of timeouts? That was a wild football game.
Well, let me tell you from personal experience of being stepped on before and falling in the pocket, that is the worst feeling. And he said it after the game in the interview. Whoever on field asked him, what'd you feel? And he said sheer panic. And I'm telling you, the sheer panic is doesn't describe it well enough because not only is the game on the line, obviously, the game's over if he gets touched probably at the line of scrimmage or in the pocket at that point because there's not enough time, right, to get on the ball. And then you got to get up. You don't know what's happening. He honestly got lucky that the Chiefs basically just stopped rushing for whatever reason. And having the wherewithal to just recognize to get up and make a play, boy, good on him because that is a really, really tough spot to be in through no fault of his own, obviously.
So is it when you get that situation where you trip over a lineman, whose fault is that? Is that the lineman or the quarterback?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. They kind of showed a close-up of it. Honestly, in that situation, it looks like he false steps. So, he moves his left foot, but he's trying to do a run play to the right. And so his right foot never moves. And then the offensive lineman's stepping to pull or stepping to go to make his steps. So it kind of looked like he should have moved his right foot first to get out of there. Again, like I don't know the specifics of the footwork. Oftentimes it's the quarterback not quite getting out fast enough, but sometimes it's the offensive lineman taking a bad step and reaching back instead of reaching more flat.
All right, Alex, Oregon and Indiana, two undefeated teams who are playing good football right now. They're going to match up down at Autzen. The general consensus I'm getting from Duck fans is that I don't think they really know what to make of Indiana. And I'm not even sure I know what to make of them because, they're traditionally a basketball school, but with Signetti, they've been really good over the last couple of years. What are you expecting in that game?
I'm kind of like everybody else. I don't really know. I know that Kurt Signetti's a really good coach that seems to get his team, for whatever reason, and I don't know him at all, but just on peripherally, he seems to get his team ready to play week in and week out, which can be harder than you think for 19 to 22-year-olds. His teams always seem ready to play, right? And then I do know that he's got an elite talent at quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. I mean, a big kind of prototypical pocket passer that's got a big arm, can hit every throw on the field. He's going to really stretch that Duck defense. I just don't know, and goes back to our conversation with Oregon against Penn State, where I just feel like Oregon's front seven on defense and their offensive line are really good this year, and I think they can dominate in a physical way that Dan Lanning wants and that a lot of teams aren't ready for, and we already saw it with Penn State that happen. And now I'm wondering if kind of Indiana in that Autzen environment against a physical Duck team can hold up over 4 quarters.
Yeah, that's the big question for me. One more football question for you. Miami looks really good. I've been very impressed. Obviously, their offensive line play is elite, not a surprise under Cristobal. I think the general consensus is that everyone agrees that Miami's got as much talent as anybody, but we all just keep waiting for Mario Cristobal to mismanage a game. But they look really good. What are your thoughts on the way they're playing right now?
Well, I would say, first of all, there's, coaches get better, right? Coaches improve. They get through their experiences. And, Mario Cristobal, I think, yeah, 100%. I think, I think those, and think back to when, obviously Lanning's young and when Mario Cristobal took on Oregon, he was young. And these guys grow throughout their careers. And, I mean, just compared to some of the great, compared to a guy like Pete Carroll, right? Like when he was at USC, he was, 50 years old. You know what I mean? And so, and then, these guys that are in their 30s coaching, they got a lot of time to learn, to try and learn the game. So they're going to make mistakes. So I think Coach Cristobal is getting better, And then I do think that, for that roster, I mean, they're like Texas Tech and Ohio State and Oregon. They are at the top level in the NIL world and have an offering that can get the best players. And I think Carson Beck has gotten better. It's kind of the beneficiary, right, of a change in scenery from Georgia to Miami. I think they built a really quality roster and they get great players. And in college football right now, there's just not that many complete rosters, right, Chad? Like, think about even Ole Miss, right? Ole Miss is a good football team, but are they would they have been the 4th best football team in the country in the previous 4 or 5 years? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? So I'm still wondering where the top 2 to 4 teams shake out in college football. I think Oregon and Ohio State are the 2 best. After that, I just don't know.
Yeah, it's a great point. All right, Alex, you guys are doing great work at eForce, but I'm really excited about your Vancouver location because I'm on that side of the river, and I love it when we get some Vancouver love. So tell me about the Vancouver location and the way that it's growing.
Yeah, we're so excited to get into kind of Vancouver and Southwest Washington. I mean, obviously it's a great sports town. A lot of great high school athletes, high school programs up there. Tons of growth, heading north and out east, and we just really feel like E4 Sports can be a big part of that community and developing young athletes and working with youth programs and high school programs. So we have a new facility up there in the Vancouver area where we are doing our strength and conditioning training primarily. So if you have a young athlete that is anywhere from age 8 to 18, any sport, male or female, we do customized strength and conditioning and speed and agility programs where you can come in, learn from our coaches who are all certified trainers, provide one-on-one attention, and really help your athlete develop both, again, their injury prevention, their agility and quickness, their speed and strength to help them on and off the field or court. So check out e4sports.com, click on the Vancouver tab. You can see that location. You can see all the offerings there. We're also offering off-season football development as kind of football season winds down. We'll have 7-on-7 teams, quarterback training, youth-focused camps. So a lot going on in Vancouver, continuing to grow in that space and service athletes in that area.
Alex Brink, former Coug. Hey, buddy, have a safe trip. I really enjoyed that conversation. And hotty toddy, baby.
Yeah, we will see what the Grove's all about. I'm excited for it. Thanks.
All right, I love Alex Brink. Alex, that was great, man. Love talking to Alex Brink and love getting the breakdown from him. I'm up here at the Pines, section 330, getting ready for the Trailblazers and Kings. First home game for Portland tonight in their preseason action. And when we come back, I've been joined unexpectedly by the principal, Curtis Long, and I've got a very simple rule. If you're going to come hang out with the radio guy, you got to put on a headset and make sense of the world. So we're going to do that next. Aaron Fincher is going to talk Ducks coming up at 4:20 as we get ready for the Ducks and Hoosiers from Autzen tomorrow, 12:30 kick on CBS. And Chris Burkhart's going to be up at 5 o'clock with Blazers Game Day. Oh, Shacker feeling very patriotic right now. And I'm proud to be an American. And the Mariners and Tigers coming up at 5:08 on Fox. I promise never to sing that song again and butcher it. That's my bad. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Portland Chad here. This is the best sports. Dang it.
The Benny Martin. This is appropriate.
All right, I'm joined now by the principal, Curtis Long. I don't feel like we are qualified to speak over one Benny Mardones. It's one of the greatest songs of all time, and yet the creepiest video of all time, too.
Just 16 years old, leave her alone. There's the opening lyric. That's all you need to know.
Oh, this is so good. So tonight, you and I get a chance to work together for the first time in a brand-new basketball season.
Yeah.
And what was nice in that game against the Warriors, I don't care about the fourth quarter when the benches were cleared. The starters, Denny, especially Shaden Sharp, Tamani Kamara, when the key rotation guys were in, the Blazers built a big lead, and I thought looked very productive in that new offense under Tiago Splitter.
Yeah,
What'd you think?
I thought they looked superb. It was really fun to watch all the movement going on, and if Tamani Kamara can shoot like that, he is going to be tough because we know how he defends, but if he's going to make 4 threes in the first quarter, Blazers they're going to hang in the games. Now the depth is going to be an issue for sure, but that starting 5 can really put up some points.
Yeah, there's no question about it. A lot of people were worried after Anthony Simons got dealt when they acquired Drew Holiday during the summertime. And they're like, where's the offense going to come from? It was a legitimate concern with the shooting percentages. This team has struggled, from distance, especially over the last few years. But when I see Shaden Sharp showcase what he did the other night, like that's your answer.
Yeah.
So if he can be consistent and contribute at a high level consistently on both ends of the floor, that's your solution right there. It's very simple because he's got the higher ceiling, I believe, of all the young guys.
Absolutely, and we saw that Shaden Sharp is not a catch-and-shoot shooter. He can create on his own, and that we really saw that too in the first quarter of that game where he doesn't need to come off a screen. He doesn't need a lot of movement, even though they are getting a lot more movement now in the offense. Shaden Sharp is a scorer. He can get his shot off just about anywhere on the floor, and it really showed in that one. So if Shaden Sharp can continue to play that way and you get Kamara to shoot anywhere close to the way he was shooting. Now, I realize it's game 1 of the exhibition season, but if he has worked that much on his outside shot and it's going to pay those kind of dividends, Blazers are in really good shape.
And I think maybe that first game is a good reminder for Blazer fans with young Hansen. He is not NBA ready yet.
No.
He is a project. And I think we forget that because he shined so much at Summer League and he's got such stardom coming from China that we got to remember that, one, even for legitimate NBA big men, that adjustment's really difficult. And when you come from the Chinese Basketball League over to the NBA, you're facing bigs that move at a different speed than the guys you played in China. So just maybe keep in mind as you're watching him, this is not going to be a quick process. It's going to be slow in terms of development for Hansen, primarily because of the speed of the guys he's going to see on the floor.
Well, let's face it, the NBA players are the best in the world.
By
so
far.
You're facing the best athletes in the world, and Hansen did look a step slow, maybe even more than a step slow in that game, and we're going to see that this year. He is going to be overmatched at times. We did see when he was in, had trouble getting back on defense, but look who he's going up against. I mean, even Donovan Clingan, he struggled last year. He spent the summer chiseling his body, working up his fitness level. He says he can play 30 minutes. Remember, Clingan could only go about 20 last year and still be productive. So it's going to take a while for Hansen, but he's on the right track. I think he's with the right organization that'll be patient with him. And we'll see. Maybe he'll eventually get some time with the remix to really kind of refine his game on the bluff.
That's pretty funny. I called you earlier today. And like usual, you did not answer. You work for the school district,
this one
so
was
I know.
legit. Usually I'm just ignoring you.
Of course, so he screens me out and then sends me a text. I'm actually in a meeting right now.
I was actually in a meeting. I was in like a big conference call meeting. It would not have been good to talk to Chad in the middle of that.
Well, it's pretty awesome. You're going to be at Autzen tomorrow for the Ducks and Hoosiers. And I'm really looking forward to this game because I know Oregon is legitimate. And with Indiana, they're learning to become legit after a big year last year. It's a step up in weight class for them, but they're a physical football team. Like, I'm really excited to see this matchup. Most of us don't know what to expect from Indiana because we're not accustomed to them being a football power, but I think this is going to be a sneaky good football game tomorrow.
I think it will be a good football game as well, and I'm glad that it's at home because I think Autzen Stadium and that noise is really going to play a factor for Indiana. This is a step up in weight class. this is a step up in crowd noise for them, too. They have not experienced Autzen Stadium before. I think it will be loud. College game day is already on campus. I got a text from my son who's a student there. He was on set, on the game day set, so he's excited. The campus is excited. It's going to be rocking down there.
He was actually sitting on the set. You got a photo of him.
Yeah, he is a member of Duck TV. He's part of the campus
sweet.
TV station, so he was there. He sent me a picture from inside the truck, the production truck, and so he's been all over the place touring around with College Game Day.
Does he have a desire to get into broadcasting?
He does. He really likes behind the camera type things. He likes the filming part of it and the recording of the sound, but I've been encouraging him to get out in front of the camera, get on the microphone. He's pretty talented at that, too. So, really, I'm a graduate from there, but the University of Oregon, great spot for broadcast journalism, for any kind of journalism, great journalism school there.
He's a young man after your own heart.
That's right. When he decided to go there and said, Dad, I'm going to enroll in the journalism program, definitely a great day in the Long household, for sure.
That's pretty sweet. I love it. Did you tell him about your career path where you got into broadcast journalism? You got axed, and then you're like, I'm going to get into education now.
Yeah, I was at a local station here in town, and anyone who's been involved in broadcast, you know this as well as anyone.
Oh, yeah.
We had our ratings period. The general manager called us into this confidential meeting in the boardroom and kind of pulled out a piece of paper, showed it up on the screen on the screen there, and said, these are our ratings. These are not what we'd hoped they would be, and all of your last day will be Friday. So, okay.
All right. I'm going to go back to school. I appreciate that.
I'm going to go do something a little more stable.
All right. The principal, Curtis Long, he'll be joining me on the broadcast. You can continue to hang out with me if you have time.
Well, I can't think of a better place to be than Section 330 of the Moda Center 2 hours before a game when there's absolutely no one up here.
Literally no one.
Nobody.
So Curtis is going to hang out. I get some bonus Curtis time, and we'll continue to talk about the Ducks and take a look at the college football weekend. Mariners and Tigers, first pitch at 5:08 on Fox from T-Mobile Park, which is going to be awesome. You got the Rip City Drive in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Trailblazers going to play their first home game of the preseason tonight at Moda. Kings are in town, tip at 7. RipCityDrive is live from Moda Center right now. Chris Burkhart will have Blazers game day at 5, and I'll have the network pregame at 6. A reminder, every single Trailblazer game streams live on our free iHeartRadio app. All eyes are on Seattle tonight. It's coming up 5:08 first pitch on Fox. It's Game 5 of the ALDS with the Tigers and Mariners. Kirby and Scoobel are on the bump. Seattle has won the previous 3 against Scoobel, including Game 2. The winner will meet Toronto in the ALCS. The Ravens have ruled out Lamar Jackson for Sunday's game against the Rams as he deals with a hamstring injury. Sam Levitt from Westland now doubtful for ASU's game at Utah tomorrow as he deals with an undisclosed injury. John Mateer has been upgraded to probable. Oklahoma and Texas meet tomorrow at the Cotton Bowl. Oklahoma favored by a point. The Ducks are a 7-point favorite. They host Indiana, 12:30 kick on CBS. Aaron Fincher is talking Ducks at 4:20. All right, Curtis Long, the principal, was kind enough to come up and surprise me, so he's hanging out with me for a few minutes as we get ready for the Trailblazers' first preseason home game tonight, coming up at 7 against Sacramento.
Nice job on the update, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
The top of the hour updates. That's how you got me into radio, the top of the hour update.
I'll never forget it. I was working at a station off Bancroft, and it was when it was 95.5 the game, and Curtis came by to check things out because he always loved broadcasting and wanted to get back into it because he enjoys it, unlike being a administrator. And so he came by, and he was hanging out with me. And this is back when we had this guy, Brian Jennings. I called him Boss Man Jennings. He had a deep voice. Oh, Chad. And he was a nice guy, and he gave me plenty of opportunity. But I know that he never really listened to the show because –
Yeah, you would just say, did you hear my interview with Greg Oden?
Yeah, it was really good. Nice job. And so he thought that was I always knew he wasn't listening, which I thought was funny. So one day I'm like, Curtis, here, just sit down here and do an update. We use this program called News Boss. It's really easy. Here's how you do the highlights and everything. And Curtis sat down and wrote an update and did one at the top of the hour. I didn't ask for permission. He didn't work at the station. I just knew he would do a good job. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I hear Boss Man coming down the hallway. Oh, who did that update? And I was like, oh, that's Curtis Long. Oh, it's really good. He did not respond how I expected, but it was awesome. And that was the beginning of Curtis and I being reconnected in the broadcast booth, which was pretty fun.
Yeah, the Chad Doing School of Broadcasting. We're just going to put you on the air. I know you're not employed here or anything, but we're just going to put you on.
But see, that's what sucks about the broadcast business is that the business side of corporate broadcasting, not good, but the job itself is always fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is why you're still looking to get a crumb.
Always a blast.
Yeah, it's the best.
All the way back from when we were sitting together in the bleachers at Evergreen High broadcasting basketball games.
But think about it, like for covering a basketball team like the Blazers, for the next 6 months, you and I and Travis and Rich and the entire team, Travis Clinton, very busy, right? But it's the people that you're with throughout that long period of time that makes it all worth it.
Yeah, and I thought we had a good time this summer when we did a show over the summer. It was kind of like behind the scenes. Well, here's what we're talking about. When you hear the commercial on the air, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're usually playing musical trivia with each other. Name that tune. Anything that we could dial up on YouTube, which you continue to make fun of me because usually I'll press play and it's an ad. So...
And what I love, too, is I can send you anything. Like the other day, I had stumbled upon the Lionel Richie conversation with Joe Rogan. You're the first person I thought of, so I instantly fired off the link to you and said, you got to watch this. And so you and I both watched the interview, and Lionel Richie's the man. Lionel. He heard you singing. He wants to come out and meet you with a big python, Michael Jackson. But because we're connected with music so well, so I love that kind of stuff. But the Ducks, I really think the Ducks, this is a great game, and I think teams are starting to kind of show some definition in terms of the best teams in the country. So I think Oregon is definitely one of those teams coming off the win over Penn State. I now look at them from the situation where in the past I would always be able to identify 1 or 2 or maybe 3 teams where I'm like, I don't think Oregon can match up with them.
That's going to be a problem, yeah.
But now I look at the Ducks and the strength that they have with their defensive line, their offensive line. Like, I believe they can compete with anyone, which is great. So the teams I'm looking at right now, Ohio State, Clearly, elite talent. I think they're a really good team with a young quarterback. I've watched enough Miami now to know that Cristobal's really put together a good team. They're improved defensively, and I love their offensive line. He's great at building those. They run the football between the tackles really well, and they're getting great play from Carson Beck. And I've seen Ole Miss play a few times now. Love their play design of Charlie Weiss Jr. Lane Kiffin's got a good squad. They're physical, and they're getting great play from their quarterback, Trinidad Chambliss. I think Oklahoma's defense is one of the best in the country. And then we'll find out more about Bama. They're at Missouri tomorrow, and Georgia, who plays at Auburn. But Oregon is right there at the top with some of the best teams. There's no question about it.
Well, you said it, and usually you can look ahead and say, well, they're going to struggle with that squad, or they're going to struggle with that squad. And usually it's been in the trenches where Oregon has struggled. But Dan Lanning has made it a priority to beef up those trenches, and he has really done a nice job. That's their strength, is that offensive line, that defensive line, and that really showed at that game at Penn State. Now, is the win at Penn State as impressive now after Penn State falls on its face? We'll see. But so far, Oregon has really done the job against the run and in the trenches, and that's where they look most impressive to me.
And I thought early on the biggest surprise to me might have been the defensive line, especially the defensive tackles with the way they were playing, and the continuity of the offensive line with some new faces from the portal, how well they were able to play from the start. But now, after watching a few games, I think the biggest surprise to me is Dante Moore. Not that he's a really good quarterback, but he's taken it to a level that I didn't even see him taking it to. He's been dynamite, composed, makes good decisions. Like, you can tell the team believes in what he's doing out there.
Very, very composed. That's what I've been most impressed about, especially in that whiteout game at Penn State. He never looked rattled at all, no matter what the situation was. He made the plays when they needed to be made and really composed at all times. And he credits Dan Lanning with that. And I think for him, look at him. He was starting at UCLA, comes to Oregon, sits on the bench for a year behind Dylan Gabriel, gets to watch, and he knows what he's capable of. He's very confident in his abilities, and I think that really translates out onto the field. And you're right, the players really look to him as their leader, and when you have that calm, comfortable leader under center, you can do great things. That's what's really happening for Oregon right now.
You made a good point about Indiana. They haven't experienced an atmosphere quite like Autzen.
No, they have not. I'm not sure they have been there at all unless it was a long time ago. Certainly not in conference, and this will be a new experience. And remember when Ohio State came, and a lot of the Ohio State fans said, well, how loud can it be? It can't be that big a deal.
You got 50,000 in there. Give me a break.
It can't be that loud. And then you see text screens that are saying, loudest stadium I've ever been in. No joke. This is no joke in here. The Autzen fans will bring it, that's for sure. And the students are in session now, so it should be a fun atmosphere when the Hoosiers come to town tomorrow.
All right, we got the game with the Kings coming up tonight. Like, what are you looking for after what we saw with the Warriors, with the good play of the guys we named, with Tamani, Denny, and Shaden? Like, what are you most anxious about watching tonight with this new look group?
Well, I definitely want to see the offense some more. I thought the movement was great. It's certainly a different offense than we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing a lot of pick and rolls at the top. It was really fun to watch that game in San Francisco as the cutters were going through the middle, into the corners. Denny Avdia is able to create a little bit. This is actually perfectly made for Scoot Henderson. It's really a bummer that he's injured right now because you saw how they were doing without him. I think with him on the floor, they're going to be great. So we'll see when Scoot comes back. I think this is perfectly made for him as someone who likes to push the ball, keep it on the move. But as I said before, Tamani Kamara, if he can be a shooter like that, Shaden Sharp can shoot like that, they're in good hands. Now, granted, it's been one game of the preseason, so if they can get consistent shot making from Tamani Kamara, especially behind the arc, and Shaden Sharp's ability to play make, I think the Blazers are in good shape offensively. And that's been the biggest question coming into this season is where's the scoring going to come from with Anthony now on the East Coast?
The other part, too, I noticed it on Media Day like you did, but, man, Donovan Clingan has really put a lot of work in on his body. He has slimmed down, and he was an animal in that game on Wednesday against the Warriors, gobbling up offensive rebounds. But, man, I'm hoping that with the lighter frame, he'll have better movement and just be more active defensively and won't feel as awkward when teams try to get him in space and defend in those spots.
Yeah, and with the lighter frame, hopefully he can stay out of foul trouble as well. He'd find himself beat a few times last year. That's how he would get those fouls, is trying to catch up with his opponent. But he definitely looked different. That's the first thing you notice when looking at him. He looks different. He's got a different body, much more muscled now. And he even said at Media Day, I expect to go 30 minutes tonight. That won't be a problem for me. So we'll see. He's got to stay out of foul trouble to do that, but 30 minutes a night would be great if they can get that from DC.
Oh, that's going to be awesome. And the team defense. What I'm really hoping for this year is that what we saw at the second half of last year defensively, I expect that this year. Like, if they can be a top 10, top 5 defense through the first half of the year. Think about how many more games they'll win or have in the win column at the halfway point compared to last year.
Oh, you look at who they throw out on the floor. Would you want to face that starting 5 defensively?
No.
Drew Holiday, Tumani Kamara's out there, Donovan Clingan in the middle to rim protect. Jeremy Grant's a good defender. They're in a good shape defensively now. The depth is what's going to be could be potentially a problem. I don't know. Is Matisse going to go tonight? It would be great to get Matisse Thybulle back, another great player defensively. So we'll see how that goes. But that starting 5, that can play with anyone in the NBA. It's that depth that's going to be a question for the Trailblazers.
Even Matisse Thybulle on Media Day, talked about the excitement of being in this new offense because he's like, hey, I'll be able to play and not get stuck in the corner this time.
That's what he said. Now, players like Tumani and I, who are not known for our offensive prowess, we'll at least be engaged because we know we may touch the ball. We don't just go stand in the corner and watch.
All right, I would say this is one of my favorite radio moments with you. So this is back in like 2009, 2010, back in the early days of 95.5 The Game, when you and I were doing a Ducks game day together in the mornings, and they just moved into downtown with these new studios. And
I think it's the first show ever in the studio.
And, of course, when you have new studios and you're trying to get things off the ground, you have a few hiccups, and you and I are there alone at basically 6 o'clock.
I mean, that sounds smart, right? Brand new building. It's the first time we've ever used a studio. Any engineers around?
Yeah,
no. Just put Chad and Curtis in there. They'll figure it out.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. This is what happened.
And I'm loving that music. All right, 503-417-9595, 877-550-9595, or you can text at 95595. I sound like Darth Vader in my ears right now.
Got some echoes in here, I know.
Luke, I am your father. Terminator. It is the weirdest sound I've ever heard in my ears right now. Is that going out over the air?
The Hall & Oates still sounds good.
That's one of the greatest lines in the history of radio. The Hall & Oates still sounds good.
Yeah, it was coming through loud and clear.
I love it. So that right there, I think that's a top 5 moment between you and I. I appreciate that so much. All right, big thanks to Curtis. I will let you go on to do whatever you're going to do now, and you and I will get a chance to connect a little bit later.
We'll be on in the network pregame
What
show.
time are you heading down to Autzen? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning. I'll be there tomorrow morning and get there bright and early, so I'm up in the press box tomorrow.
All right, Aaron Fentress, Oregonians, coming up next. We'll talk Ducks and Hoosiers. And Chris Burkhardt has arrived. He'll be on for Blazers game day at 5. Right here in your home of the Blazers, 620, Rip City Radio.
That was awesome. We've got a slight echo issue. That's Terminator. Is that supposed to sound like that?
You got an engineer? No. Where's Thor?
I forgot about Thor. Yeah, where's Thor? Where's Thor? No, it's the first time the studio's being used. Is that okay? You guys will handle it. Hey. Did you guys get new credentials yet?
No. I guess we were probably getting them tonight or something.
I didn't either. I did get a parking pass, so that's good.
When I just came through security, they have their sheet is for last year, so I don't even expect they expect to have anyone with these credentials.
I brought one from 2 years ago by accident. They said, "Hey, that's 2 years ago." I said, "Well, they're just in a big
I
pile."
got scared
Sorry.
because I remember I used mine for something the other day and didn't know if it was in my car.
All right, very happy to welcome my friend back to the show from the Oregonian, Aaron Fentress. And before we get to football, Aaron, what's your take on the Tigers and Mariners tonight, Game 5 at T-Mobile Park? I can't decide if it's a good thing or a bad thing that Scooble's 0-3 against the Mariners on the year, which seems unbelievable with the type of gas he throws.
Oh, man, I like the Mariners' chances. I mean, I can't say that I can – break down the matchup and give a favorite, but I like the Mariners' chances at home. I went to the 18-inning playoff loss against, was it Houston 3 years ago, I think it was?
Yeah. Oh.
Was it Game 3 when they lost 1-0 in 18 innings, I think it was, something like that?
What was that experience like?
Oh, my God, it was awful. Because here's the thing that was bad about it. It's not like there was a lot of drama, like where teams kept tying it up. Someone would take the lead and someone would tie it up, and you go in extra innings. I guess Seattle was home, so they would be the one tying it up. So at least you'd have some excitement. It literally got to the point where we were like, please, Lord, someone get in scoring position. Like you were just hoping for someone to get in scoring position. And like in the 14th inning or something, I looked at this like 5-year-old kid, and I pointed at him. I go, he was in diapers when this started, and everyone around started laughing. I started plotting with people like, okay, someone needs to make a Costco run. They need to get some food, some sleeping bags, some heaters, and so we started making jokes about it after a while. But man, we could not wait for that thing to get over with. It was 6 hours of baseball, dude. It's 6 hours of baseball with one run, I think, or 2 runs scored the entire day, or whatever it was.
You know what's weird? You and I have been watching sports for so long. It's that, we know that postseason sports is better, but, man, it really goes to a different level in baseball where every pitch, every play, it matters so much, and it could be as simple as a leadoff walk or an error that leads to a game-winning run like we saw last night with the Dodgers and Phillies. I just love the intensity and the angst that builds in a Game 5 in a playoff series in baseball.
Yeah, baseball changes completely because it's during the regular season, it's not like that, right? It's just there's so many games, and then you get in the playoffs, and all of a sudden, like I'm a Cubs fan. Cubs came home down 2-0, and I'm freaking out with every hit they give up. Last night Boyd gave up a hit and then got with 3-0 on a guy. They're 3 or 4-0. I'm like freaking out. Like, come on, throw a damn strike. Yes, it's fun. Playoff baseball is absolutely amazing. Regular season,
I agree,
but playoff baseball is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So now that you've had a chance to prepare and get ready for this big game tomorrow with Indiana and Oregon, what have you uncovered about the Hoosiers? I'm trying to figure out, how good of a team are they? Because they're kind of new on the scene. They're a traditional basketball power. They struggled in that step up in weight class last year with Ohio State. So, how good are they? What is Oregon getting tomorrow at Autzen?
They're really good. I mean, their quarterback's on fire. Mendoza's, 16 touchdowns, 1 pick. They got good receivers. They got a really good rushing attack, 207 yards per game. Their defense has been, giving them 9 points a game or something like that. So they're clearly really good. But there's a difference between being really good and then having, the level of athleticism and future NFL talent that a team like Ohio State had last year, right? So I think they were 10-0 when they went into that game, and then they got smoked 35-15, and, of course, State lost in the playoffs. They just weren't quite at that level. So I'm kind of expecting us to see that play out in this game. I think they're going to, it's going to be competitive. I think it's going to be a good game. I got it 33-23, something like that. I think Oregon kind of, takes control in the fourth and wins by 2 scores. Or sometime in the second half. But, I just don't think that they're quite at that level of overall talent and depth to where they can deal with, Ohio State and Oregon on the road. That's sort of where I'm at. An example of that was last year I went to the Illinois game. Illinois rolled in Austin, 16th in the country. I was there for Parents Weekend. I now have 2 Ducks, by the way. So all those guys, everyone out there who thinks I'm a Ducks hater, rejoice in the fact I'm paying double tuition. So you can all be excited about that. But,
no one loves the Ducks more than you do. No one.
Exactly. I even actually, when I went to the first Parents Weekend with my daughter 2 years ago, I went and I said, you know what, screw this media nonsense. I'm going to buy myself an eggshell hat because I think they're dope. And I wore it to the game. And a few people mentioned they saw me until I saw Aaron Finch was at the game of the Ducks. I'm like, yes, you did, because I'm paying tuition. But anyway, I digress. But Illinois walked in there. I thought this could be an interesting game. It was clear after 2 possessions that Illinois did not want to be there. They just knew they weren't on the same level as Oregon. I think this Indiana team is better than that Illinois team. We saw Indiana destroy Illinois just a couple weeks ago. But I think that Iowa game, man, 20-15 at Iowa, and Iowa's not that great. They're solid, They're not that great. So that, to me, is a big red flag, and Iowa's nowhere near as talented as Oregon is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I can't help but think that bye week coming off the Penn State game, how valuable was that for Dan Lanning to be able to get his group reset after such an emotional victory?
Oh, that was huge. Emotional, physical. There's so much build up to that. It was such an intense game for all of them, mentally and physically. And to have a week to reset. I wrote about that last week. Lanning was talking about, they were working on their bodies, working on their mentals, and also it was the week school started. As a matter of fact, that week I moved in 2 kids, which was about as hellacious as that game at Penn State was. But but here's the thing that's funny about that is that game was built up as being so monumental. And look, I thought it was I was there. It was a great event. Watching Dante Moore sort of come of age in that game and play under so much control, and watching the defense dominate Penn State's rushing attack, which I didn't think they would do. It was great. But people came out of it acting like, oh, Oregon's the best team in the country and blah, blah, blah. And then Penn State goes and loses to 0-4 UCLA, right? Which completely diminishes the value of that win. There's no way around it. So Oregon has a chance to sort of, add another, a better win now. It would be if you win Saturday on top of their list of a very, it's not their fault, but their resume to date has not been that impressive because their best win is against a team that's unranked and lost to an 0-4 UCLA team.
Who's been the best team outside of Oregon that you've seen? Is it Ohio State, Miami, Ole Miss, Oklahoma? Like, who's jumped out at you aside from Oregon as being super legit so far this year?
Yeah, all the above. And then George Reiser, I do a podcast with George Reiser from Oregon, tight end, the Ducks Confidential podcast. He's raving about Texas Tech. He likes their talent level. They've been spending a lot of money on NIL to build up their talent, their defense. They got a quarterback. I've been kind of paying more closely attention to them. There's a lot of good teams, but there's so much turnover these days, and so many things change that I just need time. Like I need 4-0, 3-0 doesn't mean anything. 5-0. Here's something I've been trying to tell people lately. Is so you look at the Ducks are 5-0, right? But the Ducks have one real win in terms of, the type of teams you need to be good against in order to truly win a championship. You're a Broncos fan. I'm a Bears fan. If one of our teams is 5-0, all 5 wins came against NFL teams, against the top 32 teams on the planet. In college football, Oregon, they have a team against the 27th ranked team in the AP poll, and then the other 4 wins are against teams in the bottom 20% of the nation. So they're kind of worthless for that in that regard. So, Miami has some good wins. Florida State. Ohio State went to Washington, and that was a good win, and they beat Texas, but Texas looks kind of mediocre. But it's just too early. Like, I believe you got to get to November before you truly know what's up. Because the team in the rankings thing, that's another thing. The rankings are an illusion, right? Penn State was ranked number 3 when Oregon beat them. But were they really the 3rd best team in the country? No one knows. They beat Villanova, Florida International, and Nevada, right? So a number 3 ranked team that's 10-1 means a lot more than the number 3 ranked team that's 3-0, 4-1. So we just have to wait and see. But I do like the teams you mentioned. They clearly all look really good, and so does Oregon. But we'll know more in about 5 more weeks.
Well, the other thing that's great too, unlike when you and I were growing up, is now you don't have to be unbeaten and have a perfect season. You can stumble and lose a game and still put yourself in good position come playoff time, which is the way it should have been for years. I love that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, look at Ohio State last year. They lost in Oregon. They lost that game at Michigan. People wrote them off after the Michigan loss, and they were able to fix things from there and then run the table. Now, you could argue, well, is that fair to the other teams? Well, no, I think that's what sports, in every other sport at every other level, that's how it works. Only in college football was a sport. Well, Division 1A college football was where if you lost, you might be done. I mean, heck, the Ducks, 2 years ago, before they went to this format, they lost the Pac-12 championship game to Washington, and they were out. And that was a playoff caliber team. The 2012 Ducks were 12-1. The only loss was to Stanford, and that was before the 14 playoff. That was BCS era. As a matter of fact, I've calculated out that the last 25 years, 14 of 25 Oregon teams would have made the field of 25. Excuse me, the field of 12. Sorry. That we have right now. So that just tells you how much better this is in terms of allowing teams to go through a season and not have to worry about being perfect and still be alive at the end.
Yeah, I love that. I was going to ask you, too, with the Oregon Ducks, we know that they have great funding and the ability to invest in a great roster. Where does the majority of that money come from that they're spending on their roster? Is that individual donors? Is that Nike? Like, where does the majority of their funding come for the NIL that they're spending?
That's a great question. I have not looked hard into that or done much research into it. Everything I've been able to glean is that, there's an NIL collective, and definitely Phil Knight's pumping some money into that, and people like Pat Kilkenny and a bunch of other donors as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not difficult, for a program like Oregon, which has as much pop and sizzle as it has, to get people to buy into it and put some money in there, because then it makes those people feel like they have a sense of not ownership, but they have skin in the game, right? They have something going for them in terms of, hey, I'm a part of this. And that's what you need in this day and age. You have to have people like that in order to survive. Otherwise, you're going to, fall off like an Oregon State has. And Oregon State has some donors, but, there's people out there who have a ton of money who haven't put into the Oregon State coffers. And, if they ever do, then Oregon State could make a run at being back with the big boys.
I was going to ask you, too. I was just talking with someone. In years past, when Oregon's had really good football teams, I've always been able to look around the country and pick out, 2 or 3 teams where I'm like, that would be a difficult matchup for Oregon. But I get the sense now, based on the way that Lanning has constructed the defensive and offensive lines, like I think this team can compete with anybody in the country. That's what it looks like right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think a lot of people thought that last year, and then, the Ohio State game happened. But that was a team they did beat, right? So they did compete,
Yes.
and they beat them, and then they got smoked in the playoffs. But I hear what you're saying. Talent-wise, so that Georgia game a few years ago was kind of an eye-opener.
Yes.
In terms of, Mario was recruiting well, but he wasn't quite getting the level of talent to compete at that level. And, of course, Georgia, that 2-year run for Georgia is one of the best in,
crazy
college football history. But now I think with, you look at the recruiting rankings, guys are putting, I think they had 12 guys in the combine last year or something, or 10, I can't remember, that they're starting to get more NFL-bound players. Now, that last team that went to the national title game for Oregon, the 2014 team, had a good number of, future NFL players, DeForest Buckner, Armstead, Mariota, and a bunch of other guys. But Ohio State had more players taken in the first 3 rounds of the next couple drafts than Oregon had drafted at all in the next few drafts. That tells you the difference between the overall talent level and why Ohio State won that national title game. Well, that gap is definitely narrowing in this day and age with the transfer portal and with NIL helping a lot.
That's great. Aaron Fentress is with us. He's paying double tuition at Oregon, so he is not a Duck hater, all right? We got to set the record straight. And I feel the same way because I'll tell you what, tuition for private school and college, it's going to make me a poor man. So anyone that's investing in a college, you're officially a fan of that college because you're putting your money where your mouth is, for crying out loud. Jeez.
I was in the bookstore the other day after a press conference, and I saw the Shoe Dog hat with the gold O.
Yes. The
silver O with the gold around it. Dude, I grabbed it and checked the price and was about to buy it. And I was like, wait a minute, I can't be walking around in a Ducks hat. I just can't. And I remember years ago, I bought my father-in-law a sweet coaching jacket. The same jacket that Gary Campbell had worn in the interview. I was like, that jacket's amazing. I saw it at Dick's. I was like, I would totally rock that, but I can't. So when I retire, all these people think I'm a hater. You will see me walking around with Ducks gear on and Beavers gear on. Because I'm just so sweet. Like, it's just cool. But I even have a Blazers sweatshirt that I wear around the house every once in a while. The Blazers, if I'm honest, Bulls are my team, but I like the Blazers. I spent most of my life here. But I can't be wearing it around when I was covering the Blazers. But, yeah, I'm not a Ducks hater at all. I just do my job as an objective journalist. Speaking of the Blazers, how you feeling? I know I don't cover them anymore, but I'm still watching, and I was knee-deep in that stuff for 5 years. How you feeling about them?
I feel very good about this squad, because let me put it this way. I'm really encouraged with what I saw from Shaden Sharp in that opening preseason game against Golden State, because if he becomes the player that they believe he can be and is consistently contributing on both ends, that's going to make this whole transition much easier, and maybe Shaden will become the offense that they lose with Anthony Simons. And so I'm excited about this group. But I think really what I think, Aaron, is I think they're going to be what we saw defensively last year with the continuity they have in returning. I expect them to be a top 10 defense over the first half of the year, which is going to put a lot more W's in the win column for them, and I think that's going to give them a chance to be a much better team. So I'm excited, but I like this young group, very versatile.
Yeah, that's all possible. My only caveat to that is that the second half, they faced a lot of teams that were tanking. And
it's true.
So they went 10-1 during that stretch. After that, they won 13 more games, I think. 9 were against tanking teams that were also missing their best players. One win came against the Lakers on the last game of the season without Luka and LeBron, and the other 2 or 3 came again. Oh, they had a good win against Atlanta, and then they beat Memphis without Morant, and they beat Denver without Jokic. So that's the thing that kind of raises red flags. It's like, okay, what were they really doing? What were they really accomplishing during that stretch? Were they really establishing themselves as having a great defense, or were they playing a bunch of teams without their best players and teams that were tanking? So I guess we're going to find out in the first half of this season because that won't be the case. But I do think they have the potential to be a pretty good defense, yes.
Well, it's funny you mention that because if you take a look at their the schedule in the first half, think about this right off the top. They go straight Western Conference: Minnesota, Golden State, at the Clippers, at the Lakers, at Utah, Denver, L.A., Oklahoma City before they go to Miami to face the Heat. So we're going to find out real quick over the first 8 or 9 games what they're all about because they're going to go up against stiff competition in the West. And, I mean, you know this, Aaron, the Western Conference is loaded up, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I could see the Blazers making a run at number 8 in the East, but I think they have zero chance of making the 8th seed in the West. But they could maybe push for a play-in.
I mean, heck, I don't even know who the best team in the West is. It's probably Oklahoma City, but, man, Houston's going to be great. Luka's in good shape. The Lakers are going to be tough. The Clippers are going to be a good team. The Warriors, it's just Minnesota. It's a gauntlet every night.
It's
Dallas.
Crazy.
Oh.
Yeah, it's unfair, but I just have reservations with some things Portland has done, but I do agree with you on Sharp. They need someone to emerge as a star. A legit star that everyone fears, and Sharp has the most potential, I think, on this roster to be that guy. So hopefully he turns the corner. And this is year 4. It's time. It's time for him to grow up. He even looks more mature. I saw a picture the other day. I was like, damn, he's starting to look like a man after looking like a young boy for a few years. So they need him for sure.
Well, dude, you're the man, dude. Props on the double tuition, but have fun tomorrow. This should be a good underrated football game with Indiana and Oregon, dude. I appreciate you.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. Bye.
There you go. That's my man, Aaron Fentress, right there, breaking it down. I mean, he's not wrong about the Blazers having a lot of easier games down the stretch, but, I mean, you still got to go out there and execute and get the job done, and they did. So I'm excited about this young group. All right, we'll come back, and Chris Burkhart will join me for a few, and we'll get an idea of what's on his mind as he gets ready for game day number 2 for the first home game tonight with the Kings in town. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.
Totally did. Go in, park, walk right through. Like, I've done this
All right, Rip City Drive. Blazers game day is coming up here at the top of the hour, 5 o'clock. Always 2 hours before every tip, and it's hosted by Chris Burkhart, who is with me right now. I feel bummed out for us and for Husky fans because we're stuck at a game, and it's one of those rare nights where you'd rather be at home on the couch watching the Mariners and Tigers. What a game that is, Burkhart.
Doesn't get much better than that. If you're a baseball fan, win or go home. Seattle needs this, man. This is big time. This is big time. This is what the season they had, the season Raleigh had, getting into the playoffs. I feel like this is the type of game you lose and you feel like all the wins out of your sails and momentum going forward is a little bit harder to muster. All
right, I wanted you to take a listen to this. It's one of those plays that you hear and you're like, oh, my gosh. Take a listen to this. Dodgers-Phillies, Game 4, bottom of the 11th in Los Angeles.
0-1. Swing and a broken bat. Comebacker. Kirkering knocks it down. Picks it up. Throws wildly home to the backstop. And the season is over. The Dodgers rushing out past Orion Kirkering, who stands with his hands on his knees, bent over.
I mean, bro, I felt bad for Kirkering because, one, he just made a brutal error, and then he's got to stand there while the Dodgers are celebrating all around him. And I watched the play over and over again, and I've now come to the conclusion that he probably knew exactly what he was supposed to do. They had probably talked about it at the mound meeting. And then once he lost sight of the ball, he panicked and then threw it home, even though the catcher was pointing towards first. And it was a horrific throw. How do you break that down?
It's not the exact same situation, but it reminds me a little bit of like Chris Webber in the Final Four, right?
Oh, with the timeout.
With the timeout where everything just kind of comes at you, and you're right, you just kind of clam up. I watched that replay too, and it just looked like he panicked. Just kind of struggling to find the ball. When he finds the ball, his head comes up, first plate he sees at home, and he tries to make that play. Yeah, it was a panic move.
What I thought was classy is that his manager did not desert him as he was waiting to get off the field. He waited right there at the top step of the dugout. When he got over there, he kind of consoled Kirkering, and after the game just said, hey, I let him know that, we win as a team, we lose as a team, but you pitched really well for us down the stretch. And, to keep your head up and keep balling. I thought that was pretty cool because that's got to be the loneliest feeling in sport right there because you're like, dang it, I just blew it for my team.
I mean, the way sport is, it doesn't always come down to that one play. There's so much that leads up to it that could have changed a game.
Yeah, they do have a high-priced lineup that didn't do jack all game.
Right. But the final play is always, it's the one that you see last, right? It's the one that gets remembered the most. So it did cost him, but there's plenty of other stuff too. So I love the fact that the manager's right there and says, yeah, you got to win as a team, you got to lose as a team. Keep your head up.
How about my boy Cam Scatterbo getting 98 yards last night and 3 touchdowns in the win over the Eagles? He's balling out of his mind.
I saw someone post on social media that he's just a smaller Gronkowski. Like he has the same Gronkowski mentality. Like the interview with Fitzpatrick, he's ripping off his shirt and he's just going. And then someone else I saw mention, if you shake your head every single play, no one's ever going to know if you actually have a concussion because you look like it every single play. But, gosh, he's fun.
And, dude, I know why he does that. He shakes his head after every play because he wants to make sure that his helmet is sitting properly on his dome because of the contact he's looking to create on every play. But, again, a couple of weeks ago, Brian Daboll, Giants coach, at a press conference, and Cam Scatterbo walks by trying to distract him. This is how that went down.
The injury, or is it a stamina thing right now that he hasn't had those full days and things?
Sorry, Scatterbo. Can you repeat that, please?
That's fine.
I hear you, son. It's a daily thing.
Yeah.
You might have forgot your question.
No, that's fine.
He's like that pretty much all the time.
I like that. I like that.
That's so good.
I hear you, son.
Wow!
But it's not. Hey, he's the talk of the town right now. With New York, people love him. But I mean, you watched him in his time at Arizona State. You raved about him then. He's a fun football player, man.
There are just some athletes that I watch, and I'm like, I knew when I watched Scatterbo at college, I'm like, I don't care who drafts him. They're going to find a way to get him on the field because he just makes plays. And he doesn't have the measurables, right? He's not fast. He's not tall. there's nothing that stands out about him until you see him on a football field. It's like some guys just they're always making plays, and you're like, who the heck? Who's this Scatterboo guy? And that's what he does. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and he just bounces off people. Right place, right time. I mean, 3 touchdowns. Like he's incredible, and I think what makes him so relatable to the average fan is the fact that he looks like he's just having fun. It's the same reason we liked Gronk, because Gronk was just a party animal, just having fun and just loved being there with his teammates. And yeah, I think that's what makes him relatable.
All right, so what were a couple of the things that really jumped out at you in game number 1 against the Warriors on Wednesday that you liked?
I liked Tumani Kamara, looked to be in midseason form. I definitely like that from him. Defensively, he's great. Offensively, the shot was falling. I thought Shaden Sharp was incredible. It was exactly what I think Blazer fans wanted to see. He was aggressive offensively. He was taking the right shots. He was being smart with everything he did. I thought he looked great. Hopefully he can build on that tonight. And then the third takeaway, defensively, especially that starting group together, they looked really good. There was a lot of connectivity, a lot of continuity. I think Lamar and Kevin talked about it on the broadcast, that this team doesn't look lost within that group of 5. They look like they are one connected unit, and you're seeing that in that first preseason game. I hope you can see it again tonight, and it wasn't just a one-off. But they look good. I mean, Drew Holiday was getting his hands on the balls, and he was disrupting the offense for Golden State. Blake Wesley looked good doing the exact same thing. So, yeah, defense is still there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think one thing we learned is that it's going to be a process for young Hansen. It's not overnight. He's a project, and it's going to take time. So I think people just need to understand that as they continue to watch him throughout the preseason and into the regular season.
Yeah, and I think in that game, it's not that he looked terrible.
Bad matchup.
Yeah, but bad matchup. I think you are going to understand that it's similar to Donovan Clingan a little bit last year, but more so because Young is slower. But when you get those stretch bigs or those small lineups and he's outside of the paint, it's a liability defensively because he just can't stay in front of people. He'll learn that. The whole foul thing, I'm not worried about that. I think your tweet was best. Like, it didn't take him long to realize that NBA officiating is rear end.
Yes.
And it is. It's completely different. And as I said in the fifth quarter, Chad, we've seen it with Zach Collins when he was here. You saw it with Donovan Clingan. Big men in the NBA always have that welcome to the NBA officiating moment, right? It takes them a long time to realize what they can and can't do.
All right. Chris Burkhart's got Blazers Game Day coming up. He's also on after every game for fifth quarter to break down the action with you. And we kick off our first home game of many nights. We're going to be here at Section 330 at the Pines.
Yeah, I always count, 82 games, but then you the other day, on the Blazers pregame show, we were like, first of 86. I was like, why? Why can't they have the preseason in there? I didn't want to think about that.
All right. Well, big thanks to Aaron Fentress, Alex Brink, and to Curtis Long.